Try that. Just let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. Oh, it's one of those days. I can't hear you. I'm hoping you can hear me now. No volume. Um, Try that one, guys. Can you hear me now? Yay! Right. Just I was just saying, Facebook's changed, and the software that I use to go live has all changed. I've had to quickly learn the new software today, which is the new updates, which was fine. And then I thought, oh, Facebook will be easier. I just logged into Facebook, and the bit where the website, the software connects over to the Facebook background, there's new bits on it, and I'm there going, I think I should have logged in a bit earlier. Right, okay, so Carol just brought up the fact that we had a start screen, so I'm just going to close that screen down and bring this up. You can still hear me talking, but this is the new fabric that's due out for general public on Sunday, which is this Sunday coming, which is the 25th. However, because Fred Gang's members always get a privilege of ordering first, you guys will be able to order either at 5 o'clock on Friday or 9 o'clock on Friday onwards. Now, I'm saying 5 o'clock or 9 o'clock. It's depending on where I go out with my dad on Friday. We are thinking of Wales, and it could be a late back, so it will be 9 o'clock. It will go live. If we don't go to Wales, then we are going to be putting it live in the group at 5 o'clock. So what will happen is there will be a post within the group on that specific time, so 5 or 9, and it will have a passcode. That passcode will take you over to will go you go over to the website and type in this passcode. That doesn't mean that you got the discount code. That's just to get you into the website, because the website will be closed until Sunday for general public then. And then basically, if you order whatever you want off there, I am going to say the faux leather, the vinyl, we are capping it at 25 rolls per image that you see within that big box there. So there's 12, isn't it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. We are capping it at 25 rolls per design. And the reason why we've done that is we've calculated the weight, and the weight is phenomenal when bringing it in from overseas, because that's where we get it printed. So basically, on Friday, there'll be a login in code into the website. You can still use your discount, but your discount you just do on where you normally do at the end of when you're checking out. But to get into the website, you'll need to use the code, and I'm not releasing that code until the very day. Don't stress, the website isn't closing down. I've had some people saying, "Oh, you're closing down." No, I'm not closing down. I'm just closing the website for the weekend so you guys can get first dibs on the vinyl, at least the vinyl. Um, Cotton fabric, we're not capping that. It's just the vinyl, the weight of it is basically. Right, okay, so let's get into the day. We're going to be doing this pattern, which are these little mini cases for iPods or earpods. Now, as I've already done a video in the group, the basic thing is the reason why we've got two sizes is AirPods or earpods or whatever you want to call them, all are different sizes. So this one here, this little tote bag, fits this size, plus like the Series 1 and Series 2 iPods, earpods, AirPods, I don't know what they're called, for Apple. Mine are just cheap ones. And this one fits the larger one. So if you like Michael, where you've got bigger ears and they go inside this part, it's giving me a right filthy look now. Yeah, you have got big ears though. um, if like Sir Michael, his ones are really big and they need a bigger case. Unfortunately, this won't fit any of the bigger cases. Or if you've got like the ones that go over your ear, and they clip in like the ones that you use generally for running. They won't go in this, but they will go in this. Now, personally, I am going to make this. Well, I am going to make myself another one, but I'm actually going to make one for a first aid kit, because I need a first aid kit in my bag, for when I go out for photographing with my dad. Reason being is last weekend was a perfect example. Is we forgot um, the mozzie spray, because we were at a reserve, a bird reserve, and it was so muggy, and we're by ponds and that, and there was midges everywhere. So I forgot the the sprays, the antihistamine tablets, just in case I got hay fever and that. So yeah, so I basically I'm going to make one with possibly without the straps at the back, which is like the rucksack part, and just put that in my rucksack, my camera bag basically. So tonight we're going to be making this one, which is the tote bag. It's the easiest one out of the both of them. This one's got quite a few more harder techniques in it, so we're going to do that one second. Someone did ask, do they have to make the straps? No. Laura, if she's watching Little Stitches Sews, asked a question the other day. Can I use 1/2 inch webbing? Laura's actually got 1/2 inch webbing in her shop. Um, I think it's the nylon seatbelt webbing, and that's ideal. So if you don't want to make these here, go ahead, buy the webbing from Laura's. If you want to make it into a rucksack, um, Dawn Scrivens came up with an idea. She wants to make it for a teddy bear, so it can be a rucksack on the back of a teddy bear for a little person, and they can put like their sweets in there or whatever. Some kids have mobile phones these days. I don't agree with that, but some kids, really young kids, have mobile phones. Um, so yeah, so this is the pattern, and there is only one template. So if you are printing this out, let me just get to the template, please. The template is on the last set of instructions. So personally, if you're printing it out, print out this twice. This third from last page. Print it out twice, but make sure this measures 1 inch, which is um the the inch square. Just make sure it measures 1 inch. You can do what some people do is they print this out a couple of times, cut two of these out and stick them together so they can see, and they might do a window, especially if you want to do a motif at the front. So if you like, so I've got the tabby cats from Tula Pink, you might want to put a Tula Pink cat in the middle. So the way I would do it is print off two of these, stick them together, and then cut out a square in the middle, but not obviously making sure I've got enough paper around the template, but cut a square in the middle so I can see where that cat actually falls. Or perfect example is the new latest Tula Pink fabric, the one with the tree stumps. There's loads of different animals on that. You can actually do that for the centerpiece of the animal. Now, someone did ask, will there be panels? Not for these, because these are going to go on general release as free patterns. But if you ever buy a Sewing Street panel with my stuff on it, sometimes there's space left over on the panel, and I have to use a certain amount of the panel, of the meterage of the fabric. So, likes of last time, a couple of weeks ago when I was on Sewing Street, I had to do some free stuff on there. So these will come on panels like that. I am releasing kits with panels in and kits with just hardware and stuff like that. But these won't ever be. Well, I don't know. I'm saying no at the moment, but you never know. One or two might appear as something. I might possibly do it with my mom's charity fabric, which will be out in August. Don't know the theme yet. Not 100% sure. I've done two, and I'm going to narrow it down to one eventually. Um, so yeah, so these might come as a panel that you can buy, and then a certain percentage goes over to my mum's charity. I say my mum's charity, but it's the charity that the two charities that we will be supporting. I'm just going to go to the overhead camera, and we will get started. Right, let me just turn this screen around so I can see it. Right, don't hesitate to ask any questions. And like I say, we're making the tote bag today. Let me just show you. Someone said it looks too small to fit these. I've tried the old Apple ones. They actually fit a lot better in this actually, but mine's a bit more chunky and it fits perfectly. So, or you can do doggy poo bags in this as well. So you can have your doggy poo bags in there, clip it up, have a couple sticking out, and put that on your keys. You don't have to do the handles, but I will be demonstrating the handles today. Okay, so when you printed out your pattern, for those who can't print out, I can actually print it out for you. Obviously, because we won't have printed versions of these, but I can print it out for you for £4.95. That's including postage and the printing. Or if you're ordering something from the shop, then just message me and I will print it out for free and put it in your order. Okay, so it's 1/4 of an inch seam allowance unless otherwise stated. Now, when you do the backpack, it will be a bit more than, it'll be 3/8 of an inch, but we'll come to that next time. There is bias binding on the backpack. You have to go and revert back to the videos of how to make bias binding, or there is the YouTube video, or you can do what I did. I was lazy when I made this one, but I actually just used pre-made binding. So as long as it's folded double, so 2 folds, then you can get away with it. As long as it's once it's folded, it measures 3/4 of an inch, then you can get away with it. You don't actually need 4 fat quarters, but I've written it as if you were just using something out your stash. You can just go and raid your scrap bin. This is just for the tote bag. All these pieces here, it doesn't even come to a fat quarter, or it's just over a fat eighth. So basically, go in your scrap bin and pick out what you want. You need 1/2 meter of interfacing. You'll need a 15-inch number 3 zipper. I advise a number 3 zipper. Don't go for a number 5 zipper. But you need to have the zips. You need to install the zips so they open up the opposite way to each other and they close in the center. Because if you had just one zip, it will be right down here or on this side, depending, and it will just basically be getting in the way and catching on stuff. You need 2 split rings. Split rings are key rings. So when you get a key ring from a supermarket or something, you got a ring that splits and you can put it onto your other key rings. I personally don't have these in stock no more. I used to do different shapes and that. But I actually cut these off. Yeah, I cut these off some old keychains that I basically don't use or they're broken. And then you just need 1 cam snap, or I'll talk you through the cam snap in a bit. The cutting out for the tote bag is up to this point here. So it's this section here. And then the rucksack is split part there and the rest there. There is more for the actual rucksack. Okay, so we're preparing your fabric. There is just two steps, is to interface the corresponding pieces. So if it says cut 1, say base outer, cut 1 from your any fat quarter, and then cut 1 medium weight iron on interfacing. That means that medium weight iron on interfacing is paired up with that 1 piece that you've cut from that 1 fat quarter for the base outer. fuse all your interfacing. There is some pieces that hasn't got any interfacing, like straps and the tab. And then here on step 2, it basically tells you to revert, if you're making your own bias binding, which you've got the measurements here, to revert back to the YouTube video within my channel. So let's get started. Right, so this video is going to become a general public video, and they will start watching it from now. So guys, if you ask me any questions and I don't answer, please don't be offended. I will answer at the end of the video. Right, okay, so we've got the tab of the tote bag. There's no interfacing on this. All I did was fold this in half and then opened it up and then pressed it again so the two long edges go into the wrong side. And then I'm just going to give that a repress and pop some clips on that. So this is for the actual ring tab. Now I've done mine quite long. As you can see, it's quite long in the centre here, only because I've got quite a lot of keys. It would help if I had my own on. I've got quite a lot of key rings and keys on my keys. So I just needed it to be a bit longer if I was going to put it on my keys. So I needed it to be a bit longer so it basically wasn't going to get wrecked or whatever. Okay. Okay, so just going to pop 2 clips on that. Okay, just going to sew about 1/8 of an inch away from each side, all the way down. Don't need to reverse your stitch, we're just a top stitching it basically. And I'm going to use a stitch length number 4. Let me just go to the sewing machine camera. So on my sewing machine, I've actually got a size 90 14 needle. Just get my pedal out. Okay, and I'm using just Aurifil 40 weight, because I've just got it on my actual sewing machine at the time. So 1/8 of an inch away, or as close as you want, but as long as you're catching all the layers. Just be careful of any of your fingers, because this is quite a small, narrow piece. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done that. So I'm just going to give it a press to make it flat. Okay, and then I'm just going to grab one of my split rings and feed that on. When I say feed it on, you're just posting it through the hole in the middle. And then you're going to fold it in half. So wrong side to wrong side. And you're going to sew as close as you can get to that ring. Now, personally, I can't get that too close. So I'm about 1/2 inch away from there. Now, personally, you do need to have to sew across at some point, because if you don't do that, this ring will go up and down and it will drive you nuts. So let me just pop a, sorry if you can hear people outside, we have got the windows open, it is hot here. So I'm just going to sew as close as I can get to that split ring. I'm just going to keep the standards, the top stitching length that I'm already using. And you are going to have to reverse. Now personally I've just reversed a few times, stitched over that a few times. Okay, so personally I'm just going to trim this off just to make it neat at the end. and that it's equal, because mine slightly moved underneath my sewing machine. I can't guarantee that yours won't or will. It probably will move. Mine did move a little bit. Pop that to one side. So I'm going to put that there. And we're repeating the same process with the handles. So 2 long edges into the centre. So you're going to fold it in half, give it a good press. 2 long edges into the centre, give it a press. Give that a bit of a press. Okay, and then you're going to fold it in half again, give that another press. Turn that line up. Okay, and then you're going to do the same with this, the other handle. Now you can be really cunning with this. If you're using a bit bigger piece on a back quarter, if it's, I think these handles are, let me just get the measurement. If these handles, blah, 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 12. So if you're using a piece of fabric that's 24 inches wide, you can just cut one large piece, one strip, 24 inches at the width that it tells you to. Just make one handle at the moment, and then basically once you've sewn it all together, then you can cut it in the middle. But my fat quarter wasn't big enough. So we're going to basically just clip down the edges here. And I'm just going to chain stitch these so it speeds it up a little bit. This one. Okay, so I'm just going to go to my sewing machine, just like we did with the tab. You got to sew either side 1/8 of an inch away or closer, if you can get a little bit closer to the edge on both of those. Keep your stitch length at the 4, or if your sewing machine is jumping stitches at 4, knock it down to 3.5 or 3. Don't need to reverse your stitch because it will be locked in on a seam. Okay, I'm going to feed the other one on. And then just do the other side of those 2 handles. Not the best for top stitching there, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Okay, so just give those a quick press if they're curling up like mine have. Now I'll tell you why it's curled up. It's because I was slightly stretching it when it was going through. If any of your crossbody straps that happen to curl up, it's because you're stretching it slightly. I did it really bad on this one, so. Oops. Right, okay, so you're going to get your 2 top pieces here. They've both got interfacing on, and this is the outer top pieces. Okay, so on the handle on this end and this end on the wrong side, so if you've got a better side, yeah, I have actually. If you've got a better side, make sure that's your outer, your right side. I'm just going to stick some quarters tape, probably around about 2 inches worth, on either end. Do that for both handles. So that's my wrong side. That's the only quarters tape you'll probably end up using today on the tote. So you're going to need a quarters roll. Move that in. And you're going to measure in each side. So I'm just going to put that to one side and we'll just work on the one at the moment. So we're going to measure in 1¼ inches. Okay. You're going to peel off one of the backing tapes and you're sticking that right side facing up along that quarters roll. Then you're going to go and measure the same distance from this side. So that's 1¼ Make sure your lines match up and peel off that backing tape. Okay. Then you're going to basically make sure it's not twisted at the top and your handle makes a U shape. And you're going to match up the other end and stick that down. Okay. And then with a marking tool, some form of marking tool, from that top edge, you're going to just mark down 2 marks on the handle so you know where to stop stitching. So from 3/4 inch from the top, I'm just going to mark, so that's 3/4 inch from the top of the outer top panel. I'm just going to mark 2 marks. I'm going to put that to one side and just do the other one. So we're going to measure in 1¼ peel off the backing tape. Oh, thanks, Dawn. And stick that down. Okay, and 1¼ on the other side. Twist that round. Oh, that's moved. My big belly got in the way then. Okay, and stick that down. Okay, and then we're just going to measure down 3/4 inch. And just draw on the 2 lines. Let's do it. Right, all 4 pieces of the handle, so I'm talking about these pieces here, you're going to sew up across and down, and you're going to do that for all 4 of them. Don't need to reverse your stitch, just basically make sure you sew across on those lines that you've made. Use the top stitch of what you've used for your outer of your handles. So I used a stitch length number 4, but my 4's gone tight. It needs a service. So looking at this is like a stitch length number 3 3mm. So just bear in mind whatever feels right on your top stitching. So I'm just going to do the first one. You can top stitch on the previous stitches that you've already done, which I will try and do. I'm just knocking down my stitch length to a really tiny stitch length to get it on to the stitch. Right, there you go. And I've just knocked it back up again. Okay, so I've just done that one. So I've just done that side of the bag and just move on to the next one. You don't have to make this for earpods. You can make it for anything. I just needed one for my earpods and for the other member of the family that was asking for one. But someone says, can they use earphones that have got the cables? Yeah, you can basically roll up the cable inside when you're not using it and then pop it in the case so it doesn't go at the bottom of your bag. And if you are doing the cable style ones, you can make something out of cork to hold the cables together. So basically I've got a piece of cork, two cam snaps, and I'll show you what I mean. I haven't got earphones, but I've got cable that I tied up. So for instance, it's a cable with a little, and basically that will just basically go inside. So you could do something like that if you want to. Right, okay, so just going to get rid of those marks because we all have a lot of PU or a lot of cork fabric. Right, so we're just going to add the two base parts. So both of the base outers have got interfacing on. I've used Fuse It woven. I've run out because it sold out so fast. The last time I mentioned it on social media that it is back in stock. But we have just ordered some more, which should hopefully be here in about 3 weeks' time. So hopefully. But I think I'm on holiday then, so it might have to wait until the end of June before it goes up on on the website. Okay, so we're just going to do 1/4 of an inch, reverse our stitch at the start and at the end, and then we're just going to open it up and top stitch. Now I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away. So I'm going to knock my stitch length down now to a 2.4 or 2.5, depending on your sewing machine. And I've reversed my stitch at the start and at the end. So I'm just going to chain stitch these. Okay, snip that. Okay, I'm just going to open it out. Make sure my seam is pointing down towards the smaller piece and then just top stitch it. I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away, and I'm going to do that on a stitch length 4. That's one done. Do the next one. Okay, so whichever one you want as your front, you're just going to pop to one side. It really doesn't matter, but I'm going to go with this one as my back one. And you see this outer top piece, we need to find the centre. So I'm going to fold that in half. Just give it a snip. Okay. And then we're going to get that ring tab that we did earlier on at the start. I'm going to pop that into the centre, matching up the edges. Clip that into place. And move those handles just for while we're sewing this. We're just going to top stitch, well, we're going to base stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Reverse your stitch a few times so you know you've got it in position. So 1/8 of an inch away. I'm just going to go over that a few times. So that's in position. And then once the bag's completed, that will pop up and then we will top stitch along that edge once the bag's complete. So we need to make the boxy bottom piece. So you're going to get the marking tool. Where's my marking tool? Let's put it back. Right, in the bottom hand corners, you're going to measure 1/2 inch. And you're going to draw around the square. So that's 1/2 inch up and 1/2 inch in. Moved. Okay. So I've got 2 squares there. Repeat the same process with this. And while we're at it, I'm just going to grab my lining pieces. Now my lining pieces have got interfacing, woven interfacing on the back. And personally, just pop it on top to make sure you're getting the right base, because I don't want you to go ahead and do the markings on the wrong side and cut it. So basically, just pop it on top of one of your outer panels to make sure you've got the right way. And then we're going to just pop in those boxy squares for the bottom part. And then we're just going to cut out all of those squares. So with a pair of scissors, I will do that. I'm not sure if Emily B's boxy tool maker, where you do the markings, has got a 1/2 inch. If you've got a 1/2 inch on it, go ahead, go and use it. But sometimes I forget to use it, but not on the bigger ones. But I'm not 100% sure if it has got a 1/2 inch on it. But personally, don't use a rotary cutter, because if you cut further into it, into your fabric, and you've cut past the 1/4 inch seam allowance amount, then you will have a gap in your bag, a hole. So use a pair of scissors. Doesn't take that long. Give it that. And the last one here. Okay, so you're going to get those 2 outer ones and pop them right sides together, matching up the base and the 2 sides edges, and you're going to clip those. Okay, I'm just going to pop that to one side. I'm going to grab my lining pieces, pop those right sides together. So I've got my interfacing sides pointing up and underneath. I'm going to pop some clips down the 2 sides first. Okay, and then I'm just going to pop 2 marks on the base to know where I'm stopping and starting, because we will sew across fully on the base here, but on this one we need to leave a turning gap. So personally, I like a big turning gap. Everybody says my turning gaps are a bit big. I like a big turning gap, so I'm not wrestling in the bag at the end of the day. So I've just basically popped them half an inch away, 2 marks from where the cutouts are. Just put some clips in those. Okay, so at my sewing machine, I'm going to sew 1/4 inch down the 2 sides, reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. I'm going to go across the base, reverse my stitch at the start and at the end, and I'm going to use 1/4 inch on all of those. Same again, same seam allowance, 1/4 inch. I'm going to sew down those 2 sides, reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. Then I'm just going to sew from here to that little mark there, and make sure I reverse my stitch at the start and at the end using 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then repeat the same for here. We are not sewing in that little gap there. So I'm going to use a standard stitch length. No, wrong one. This one. I'm going to use a standard stitch length. So that's 2.5. So I'm going to start off with my lining so I don't forget about my turning gap. So I've just reversed my stitch. And the same again at the end. And do that little section at the bottom, one of the little sections at the bottom. Reverse my stitch, go to where that mark is, and then reverse my stitch. Same again with the other little mark. And then do the other side. Reverse my stitch at the start, 1/4 inch seam allowance, and at the end. Okay, and then we're just going to repeat that, but without the turning gap on this one. And that's the outer bag. Okay, so we are going to trim back the seam allowance. We're going to trim it back by half. So I'm just going to get a pair of scissors, trim it back by half on all the bits that I've sewn on the outer bag. Okay, so that's that one. So on the lining, we're going to trim back half off the 2 side edges. And you see those bits that we've just sewn and left the turning gap, we're just going to trim those back by half. And you'll see what I've done here in a minute. If I put that down, you can see I've basically left the turning gap longer. So if I just bring that up and get that focus. Oh no. I'm hoping that hasn't. There you go. So there. Right, okay, so as you can see, I've got where that turning gap is, I've just left the seam allowance there. I just find that a lot easier. Right, okay, so we're going to make the boxy corners. So I'm just going to put my fingers inside, open up the corner here. Let me just refocus that now. There you go. Open up there. Make sure the side seam here matches up the base seam. And where you've got the seam allowances, just try and push them apart, but they go like that. So pop clip on there. Same with the other one. Okay, And then repeat the same process for the lining bag. Okay, and then you're just going to sew 1/4 inch on all of those, on all 4 of those. Reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. And 1/4 inch using the standard stitch length, 2.5 on this sewing machine it is. This one. 2, 3, and the last one. And that camera. Okay, and then we're just going to trim back the seam allowance of these, just by half. That's all that's needed. I'm not kidding, we're coming to the end of this little pouch here. This is the trickiest part, is the stitching around it. So you're going to pop those handles inside. Turn this. It doesn't matter which one you do right side facing out. I'll just let's do the other way, because those handles are quite stiff, that fabric that I've chosen. So leave your one wrong side facing out and turn the other one right side facing out. Poke out those corners to start off with. Okay, so you're going to pop this inside, but you're going to pop the handles down. So the handles and the tab must be pointing inside. Pop that inside. This is where it gets really fiddly. Okay, so you're going to match up the 2 side seams from the 2 bags. And you're going to clip. Do the 2 side seams first. If you find your handles are getting in the way, go through that turning gap at the bottom and fish them down. So I'm just pulling them down so they're completely out of the way. There you go. So there you go. Right, and then you're just going to pop some clips around the outer top edges, matching up the 2 bags, the lining and the outer. Okay, and then you're going to go to your sewing machine. Now this is really fiddly. So I've got a flatbed sewing machine where I haven't got a cylinder arm on it. So I have to sew from the inside. So I pull this out and sew from the inside. Now, if you've got a cylinder arm, when I say a cylinder arm, I mean a sleeve arm, just pull off your box. Fingers crossed that will fit in. If it doesn't, you're going to have to sew it as I am showing you on the actual camera in a minute. So just bear with me. Right, so I'm going to go into my sewing machine and stitch from inside. Sorry if you heard that beeping. Basically, I'm going to stitch from inside all the way around. So let me just find where I left a gap to fit my foot in. Standard stitch length, it can get fiddly, guys. And we're using 1/4 inch seam allowance. and pushing it out of the way as much as I can. Make sure you reverse your stitch at the start and at the end, and take it nice and slowly and remove those clips. Now if you want to, you can pin it if you want to. Personally, I'm not a pinner myself. I prefer clips in bag making, but something this fiddly, you might want to do some pins. Do you know what? You can make this tote bag for Barbie. Barbies are quite long, aren't they? Right, just take your time. Comb straight. Reverse your stitch at the end. If you've got a sleeve on, you would have taken this off. You might be able to fit that around, but a doubtful on this little size. Saying that though, I've had sleeves from making young people's tops, and I've managed to do it, and that's a bit bigger than a young people's top. So, right, so we're going to trim off the seam allowance by half all the way around. Make sure you don't cut into your stitches. Okay, and then you're going to go through that turning gap at the bottom or through the bag, depending on how you did it. And you're just going to push that all out. It's going to get pokey sticks, so I can just make sure the corners are nice and out on both of them. Okay. I'm not going to close up my turning gap yet. I'm going to do the top stitching before I go ahead and do anything else. So I'm going to push that inside the bag, roll the seam at the top so you can just see no lining on the outer side, and on this side you should just see a little bit of and I mean just under 1/8 of an inch of outer bag inside. Just going to roll. If you've got one of those stick irons, which has got like a little iron about this big, ideal for this. You can't use a normal standard iron to stitch this, to art press this around the top. So now I'm happy. I'm just going to go around and use my nails, give that a bit of a press. Okay, so when I go to my sewing machine, I'm going to top stitch from the inside. Now, because my top stitching works better than my bobbin side, because it needs a service, I'm going to turn this bag to the line inside showing out. Just means that I'm now can see where I'm top stitching on the outer bag. So as I stitch, I will be having my needle going through here. Now, if I show you what I've done here, these handles did used to keep flapping down. So when I top stitched all the way around on this one, I actually top stitched along the handles as well on both sides, just so the handles kept hanging upwards and staying upwards. This is totally up to you. You don't have to top stitch the handles down, but I personally am going to do it because I think it's just a lot easier on this bag, on this little tiny bag. Right, so I'm just going to top stitch. I'm going to change my stitch length to stitch length number 4. Now I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch away or 1/4 inch away, whichever you feel happy. I'm going to do 1/8 reverse your stitch at the start and at the end, both just a few stitches. And before I carry on going over the handles, I'm just going to make sure they're nice and flat. I'm going over the first handle strap part, then over the second handle, doing about an inch at a time just to make sure I'm happy, making sure I've got no fabrics caught underneath. And then reverse your stitch at the end. Lynn's just said, I've used mini curling tongs for ironing for ribbon. Yes, that will work on this for definite. When you say curling tongs, you mean hair straighteners? You can get mini paddles, which are probably about that wide, and not that big. You can use those, so that's a good idea, that is, Lynn. Right, okay, so just top stitch all the way around, just get rid of that thread that's loose. I'm going to turn it right side facing out now, poke out those corners, and then I'm going to close that gap at the bottom. Just poke out those corners. Okay, pull out that bag in a part of that bag. Make sure your boxy corners are pointing out. Then you're just going to tuck it in 1/4 inch and sew across. Just going to add a few pins or clips to keep that closed. Okay, and then just going to sew 1/8 of an inch away, reversing the stitch at the start and at the end. Make sure your handles are not underneath as well, because they can be a nuisance. You can hand sew that part if you want to. It's whatever you want to do, basically. I'm just a. Do you know what? The only hand sewing I like doing at the moment is binding on quilts. Oh, and if I want to do a blind stitch on a pair of trousers, if I, and 9 times out of 10, I have to alter quite a lot of trousers for short people in my family. So yeah. So I'm going to put this inside there. It's a proper dolly's bag, isn't it? Oh, so funny. Okay, just going to get my ear pods, make sure they fit in. So with these, the button, the snap has to be quite high up to the top. So kind of know where the centre is because you've got your tab here. But I'm going to get my tailor's awl, my cam snap parts. So with your cam snap, you should have 4 parts. So you should have, let me just focus this. Okay, so you should have 2 thumb tacks, which are like drawing pins, which has got a little spiky bit there. And you should have 2 parts here. This is a male because the bit sticks out, and then this part here where it rolls over and sticks in, that's your female part. Okay, so I personally do it as close as I can get to the top. As you can see, my my cap is just under 1/8 of an inch away from the top edge there. So find the centre, get your tailor's awl, and poke through that first layer. Okay. While you've still got the hole there, get a marking pen, push that down, make sure it's down, and pop your pen through so it marks the other side, the inside. Okay. So because we've made a mark there, let me just get my pliers. When I say pliers, I mean my cam snap pliers, but if you've got a green machine or some form of press, you can use the press that's got the dies to it. So we're going to get one of the thumbtacks, which is a cap, and pop that through that hole there. And you want the flat of the cap on the outside. Doesn't matter which one you go for on this bag. You can go for your male or female. I'm going to grab my male, and you're going to pop that flat side of the male part to the inside and going over. Some of them click into place, some don't. But that doesn't mean, if it's clicked into place, doesn't mean that it's set completely. You still need these. Now you've got a cap side, and this rubber stopper is for the female or the male side. This is for your cap. And if you look at your cap side, it's got like a cup. So let me just turn that around. And then you're just going to poke that down and squeeze it. And that pin that went through should be flattened inside the male. Then you're going to get your tailor's awl again, where that hole, that marking is that you did on the other side. Just pop all the way through. So on the outer, you want your cap, and you want the little pokey bit to come through into the lining. Female, make sure it's the cup is showing up, and then you're just going to close that up as well. Oh, that went inside. That didn't click into place. Okay. Proper squeeze that down, and you might have to squeeze this one a bit more if it's the side that's got the tab. Okay, and then just keep doing that a few times to make sure it doesn't come out. Pop your earpods in, and there you go, you've got a little bag. So I'll just go to the the front view camera. Ugh. Front view camera. And that is it basically for the first one. Yeah, so cute. Sorry, the phone gets in the way. So cute. It can go on your bag. It can go on the outer bag. You can put hand sanitizer in it because you can get small hand sanitizers. It is so adorable. Yes, Kathleen. I needed one personally myself, and another member of the family wanted one, but this one wouldn't fit theirs, so I had to design the second one, which we will do next week. Can't guarantee if it will be in one complete sewing tutorial next week, but it will be started next week, and it could possibly be finished. So yeah, that's number one. Just let me go back to this screen here. For anybody that's just joined and halfway through the live, I can't stress this enough. On Friday at either 5 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on what time of the day I get back from my travels, the website will be password protected. You will get the password as Fred's Gang. Basically, type in the password to get into the website and order your vinyl. Now, I did stress this to the other people that were watching at the start. The vinyl is limited, so all the pictures that you see on this rectangle here, which is 13 images, I will only be ordering 25, capping it at 25 rolls of faux leather per each design. So please order what you can. Threadscan gets first dibs. You can order cotton as well. Cotton isn't capped, but we've done the faux leather as a cap because the reason being is the weight. There is going to be a major weight problem coming in from overseas. It's all pre-cut. Faux leather's pre-cut to 50 centimeter wide meters. No, yeah, 50 centimeters wide, which is 20 inches wide rolls. So those of you who yes, there will be both fabrics to order, Carol. You can order cotton and vinyl. Um, you can order both of the same design if you want to. It's just the fact that I'm having to cap the one because of where I get that manufacturers. The pricing of the import duty and stuff like that is just phenomenal at the moment. Um, the other thing is when you come to the pre-order section, there is drop-down menus. So if you click on the Funky House one, which is the or the top left-hand corner one, the leopard print. If you click on that, your drop-down menu will come down, and it just basically says vinyl or cotton. Just click on whichever fabric type that you want, or if you want to order both. Now you can order multiples of the vinyl. I don't mind how many you order of every design possible. It's just the fact that I'm having to cap it at 25. That's why I'm opening it up to Threadscan for the first couple of days, just so you guys can get your dibs on it basically. I will be stocking more of the vinyl, but so I don't have to pay that big massive tax coming in. I found out, and bless the person that helps me is my agent. She helps me through this one website. She said, cap it at this because it means that you won't have to pay a sting at the other end, and you don't have to charge too much for the rolls your end. And then I can always order again after the pre-order if I want to restock the fabric within the shop. Now, but if I see something that hasn't sold that well, I won't be stocking it again, that design again. Anything else? No, no. So I will let you know the prices. This is before your discount. The fabric, cotton fabric, is cut as whatever continuous length you want. So if you order 2 units, you'll get a meter cut. But 1 unit is £9. It has had to go up by 20p since the last time, but remember, you guys get your discount. So please don't hesitate to use that discount. I will make sure that discount code is in the post on Friday, so you know which discount code to go for. And the rolls of leather, not continuous cut. Basically, if you order 2 units, you'll get 2 rolls. So it just means for the postage from my end. And they're £12 per roll. But obviously, please use your please use your discount code to get your discount. Right, okay, so I'll be back next week to do this rucksack one. And yeah, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask on anything regarding the fabric. Thank you, Becky. Love both of the bags and your fabric design. So I have to go. That's fine, Emma. I knew you had to go. Right, okay. Have a lovely evening and Race Around the World's on. Yay. It's my favourite TV programme. Right, I'll see you all soon and I'll see you all next week. Bye, guys.